I edit hundreds of photos every month, and there are 11 Lightroom features that I use on literally every photo. Adobe keeps adding game-changing tools that hardly anyone talks about. Number 7 on this list? Yeah, 90% of photographers don't even know it exists. So today I want to show you 11 Lightroom tools and shortcuts that'll make you more precise, faster, and a better editor. Let's dive in. Tool number 1 is masking on steroids. We are going to be using color ranges and luminance ranges inside of masks to give us way more control about what we do and don't select. Let's check this photo out here. So this photo is looking pretty good, but let's say I wanted to select the blue and I wanted to edit all the blue in the shot that was only in the water. So I wanted to make the water maybe a bit more purple, a bit more green, whatever the case. I couldn't use the color mixer tab down here. And if I put let's say a brush mask or a radial gradient, chances are I'm not gonna nail the selection. So instead, let's say we only wanna select this part of the water down here that's only a certain type of blue. Just for an example. Okay, I'm going to add my radial mask down here. I'm then going to click on these 3 dots here. I'm going to intersect the mask with a color range. Now keep in mind, you can also do this for a luminance range, and instead of selecting a color, you would be selecting a brightness level to be editing. So let's click color range, and then I can either click one specific pixel, or I can draw a little box to give us a little bit more breathing room. So I'm going to draw a little box right here, and as you can see, it then shows me everything that is that color. And then when I move my mouse away from the color range, you can see that only that color has been selected inside the mask. And then if I, for example, want to make this brighter for whatever reason, I could do so just like that, and I'd only be affecting that color inside of that mask. This gives you so much precision over your masking workflow and over your entire editing workflow. It's wild. But before you open up the masking tool, make sure you do this first. Most people don't touch the calibration sliders. And just a little spoiler, the calibration sliders are only available in Lightroom Classic, not in Lightroom on desktop. So let's dive into them. Let's make our way all the way down to the bottom of the effects panel in the Develop tab, and you will see this little tool down here called Calibration. Down here is where you can set the color foundation and the color DNA, if you will, of your entire shot. This is where you can determine how blues, reds, and greens are interpreted in your image. And I know that might sound a little bit complicated, but I'm going to show you a really easy way to be able to use this. And this is how I've used it for years, and I love the results I get. So we have our calibration tool right here, and as you can see, we've got shadows, red primary, green primary, and blue primary. And in the red, green, and blue primaries, we've got hue and saturation. And all I'm gonna do is slide the slider over to the left, see how it looks, slide it all the way to the right, see how it looks, and then choose what direction I like, and then find the exact spot I like the most. For example, let's do it with our shadows first. We can move it over to the left. We can move it over to the right. Personally, I like a little bit more of a green tint on my image, so I'm just gonna slightly move it over to the left. Now we can move on to the reds. Move them all the way over to the left, move them all the way over to the right. Personally, maybe just slightly left. You'll find a lot of skin tones fall here, so you don't wanna push it too far. And then we're gonna do the same for the saturation, over to the left, over to the right, maybe slightly to the right. Small changes here will add up to a big change once we've gone through all the sliders. Now, let's do the same thing for the green primary, left, right, definitely on the right, but just not much again. And we can do it on the saturation slider as well. Definitely over to the right here, much prefer how that looks. And then we can do the blue primary, left and right, maybe just slightly to the left, just a little bit. And then we can have a look at the saturation here as well. And we might also desaturate it there too. Now, a little bonus tip for you and something I'm about to show you is if you just want to see the before and after of one specific tool, you can come to the name of the tool and make your way over to the eye on the left of it and then click and hold. And as you can see, this is our before and this is our after. I much prefer how the colors look, even though it's a tiny change. Believe me, this adds up over time, and some photos need a little bit more work than other photos. So always make sure you come down to the calibration sliders and sort them out. So now that the color DNA of your image is set, let's make sure you know exactly what you're editing. So I want you to stop what you're doing and press J on your keyboard right now when you're inside a Lightroom, not on the YouTube player. So let's go ahead and press J on your keyboard and you'll see this little blue thing come up on Amanda's shoe. Well, this is clipping. And what clipping is when something is pure black or pure white in our shot with no other detail. This is an indication of whether things are too bright or too dark, or if we've pushed a slider a little bit too far. So let's make our way up to the basic tab up here. And then if we want to get rid of this tiny little black thing right down here, we've also got a little bit of black all over Amanda's shirt and on her other shoe there. What we would do is open up the black slider and just look at increasing this ever so slightly. And just like that, all the black goes away. Now, there are times where you do want things to be pure white or pure black. And if anything was to be pure white in this shot, it would come up as red, not blue. But in most cases, you want to make sure that you don't have too much clipping on your shot. Otherwise, when you export it, chances are you're going to have a look at it on your phone or on your laptop and go, ooh, that does not look right. So for every edit, make sure you press J at least once when you're at the export phase, and then you'll be able to work out whether you've pushed things too far, whether you've got pure white or pure black things. You can fix them up and you'll be good to go. Now, the next tool is a tool you should be using on every single edit, and it recently got updated to be 2 times faster, which is very, very welcome. It's Generative Remove, and it's gonna help you remove distractions from your shot. Let me show you how it works. So having a look at our image here, you might think to yourself, Zach, there aren't many distractions going on here whatsoever, but there are a few things that distract me, catch my eye, and I wish they weren't in the shot, so we are going to remove them. What we're going to do is make our way over to the remove tool right here, and then make sure use generative AI is enabled. And now all we've got to do is click and draw around the things that we want removed. Lightroom will get rid of them for us, and it'll make our photo look so much nicer. So we're not going to do every single thing I wanted to remove in this shot, others would be here for like 10 minutes. Instead, what we're going to do is remove these white dots in the ocean. So you want to make sure that whatever you're removing, whatever you're clicking on, has a little bit of padding around the edge. So I wouldn't make this super small to the exact size of the white mark in the ocean. I want to make it a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to click like that. I'm going to click there, and I'm also going to click right there. The cool thing is you can select multiple things at once and then hit remove, and that way you only have to wait once, not 3 different times, even though it's been upgraded. So now I'm happy with those selections. I can click remove, sit back, and let Lightroom handle the rest. And there we go. Look how clean our image looks now. I know this is a minor adjustment, but removing distractions is one of those things that separates the beginners from the pros. So make sure that if there are any key distractions in your shot, remove them, and I promise you'll be getting way better results. All right, so now that our image is clean, let's talk about using presets the right way. Because I promise you, it's not just as simple as looking at your preset collection, clicking one of them, and being done with it. There's a little bit more that goes on behind the scenes to make sure you're getting the best results possible. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you have a base edit already done on your photo. What is a base edit, you might ask? Well, a base edit is making sure that your white balance, your exposure, your highlights, your shadows are all true to life and your image looks overall pretty good. This way, your preset has the best chance of looking good. And then the second step to a base edit, which is something I really like to do, and a way I've found to get the best results when I'm using presets, is to make sure that my masking workflow is also taken care of. I use my AI editing system for all my masking, but you can also do it manually, of course. Once your image is corrected and has the masks applied, then it's time to use your presets, find the right one, and take one more step. So let's open up my preset tab right here. Let's open up my portraits pack, for example, and all we're going to do is scroll through these presets, find one that looks fairly nice. These might be a little bit the wrong pack for this shot, but I'm sure we'll find one that looks somewhat good. Okay, I like this one right here, but maybe I want to add a little bit more of the preset, or maybe I want to take away some of the preset. A lot of the times when you're applying presets, they can be maybe not as intense as you'd like them to be, or they can be a little bit too intense. So what we can do is make our way up to the preset intensity slider, and then we get to choose how much of this preset we do or don't want on our shot. So if I wanted less of this preset on the shot, I could remove the preset, or if I wanted more of the preset on the shot, I could increase the amount of the preset I wanted on here. I'll be honest with you, I actually have no idea what preset I used to edit this image in the first place. So we are just going to undo this, get back to our image here. And now let's get back to masking really quickly, because there's one thing that I used to struggle with so much when I was getting started, and I know it'll help you out. Seeing as masking is such an important part of the Lightroom process, making sure you have the best setup possible is extremely important. So let's open up the masking tool right here, go to create a new mask, and then let's add a linear gradient to this shot, for example. Let's just draw it down from the top, and it looks good. I can see exactly where I'm masking on my shot. I can see what is and isn't selected. However, sometimes if you're editing a shot with something red in it, let's say the top of my sky was red, it was a sunset instead of like a gloomy overcast day, then it would be extremely hard to see exactly where my mask starts and stops. So if we wanted to change the color of your mask overlay, make your way back into the masking tool right here, and then just click on this red square. And this is where you get to select what color your mask overlay is. So let's say I wanted or needed it to be green, for example. Well, now I might be able to see my mask overlay a little bit stronger, maybe blue. Oh, there you go. An example right there. I can't see exactly where my mask starts or stops because it's such a similar color to the color in my shot already. This one is super important to make sure that your masking workflow is as good as it can be. Now, speaking of your masking workflow, imagine if you could automate it. Well, you can. Let me show you how it works. This is the big one. This is the one that I said 90% of photographers don't even know exists. So what is automating your masking workflow? Automating your masking workflow means that you have tools inside of Lightroom that can mask your shot for you without you doing the heavy lifting. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's make our way over to the preset tab right here. And then I'm gonna make my way into my AI editing system. That is made up of 3 packs at the moment. I'm always updating it. I'm always keeping it fresh. Whenever I find new masks and new tools to add, I just pop them in there. So at the moment, we've got base edits, subject, and utility. Let's, for example, open up my subject toolkit. And then you can see here that we have a load of different names that are correlated with exactly what that tool will do. For example, subject, brighten subject, that would brighten our subject, right? So if I just hover over this, you can see Amanda now gets brighter. And to add it, all I have to do is click on the tool, and just like that, I'm done. The cool thing about these tools is that you can also adjust how intense they are. So maybe I'm thinking to myself, maybe Amanda looks a little bit bright, or maybe I want her a little bit brighter. I could come up to the intensity slider and reduce this to fine tune this tool to get the exact look I'm after. Now, I've got over 40 tools in this toolkit, so if you want to check them out, you can do so in the first link in the description. But this is how I mask all of my shots. It's changed the way I approach masking, and it makes the second step of making sure I have a base edit on my shot before I apply a preset, which is what I walked you through just a couple of minutes ago when we were talking about how to use presets correctly. I use my AI editing system to be able to mask my shot to near perfection, and then I apply my preset, and that's how I can edit my photos super, super quickly. You can also stack as many AI masks as you want on your shot. So for example, let's close up the subject toolkit. Let's have a look at utility. Let's say I wanted to darken the background. Well, I could do that. And now we have 2 of my tools applied to this shot, and so on and so forth. You can see we have so many tools in this toolkit. These tools are perfect for batch editing, which brings me on to copying and pasting settings between photos. Chances are when you go out to shoot, you don't only shoot one photo, come home and only edit one photo. Chances are you might have a couple more. So what do you do once you've nailed your edit? Well, there's no point to restart and apply all the same settings you just applied to the first one all manually. That would take way too much time, and there's a way easier way to do it. So what you can do is come down to the bottom left-hand corner in the Develop tab and hit Copy. And here is where you get to select what settings you want to copy over from the image that you have selected. So let's just say, for example, I wanted to select all the settings. I wouldn't recommend selecting all the settings, especially when it comes to cropping and masking, unless you're using my AI tools. They are definitely copy and pastable between images, and they'll adapt to find the right sections of your image to be able to mask them correctly. But let's just say for conversation, we wanted to select all of our settings here. I could then hit copy. I could then make my way over to my theoretical next photo in my Lightroom catalog. And then all I've got to do is hit the button next to copy, which is paste, and that will paste all my settings onto my shot. This will save you so much time in your editing workflow, and it will also help you make sure that you're not making many mistakes when it comes to getting your sliders perfect between edits. But if you are making mistakes with your sliders, let me give you a quick little win to make sure that you know how to reset any slider, any curve, or anything pretty much instantly. Let's make our way over to the basic panel right here, and let's say I'd pushed my exposure way too far. Well, if I wanted to reset this back to 0, I could either click in here, enter 0, and then hit enter. A little bit slow. I could take the slider and try and get it all the way back to 0, also a little bit slow, or I could just double click and it resets it back to 0. Like I said, this works for any slider, and it also works for curves as well. Now, another quick little win I want to show you is a before and after preview of your photo. To access this, all you have to do is hit backslash. This is the before of my photo. This is where I'm up to in my edit. I find myself doing this countless times while I'm editing, and that's because I want to make sure I'm not pushing anything too far and making my image feel and look unbelievable. I used to make this mistake a lot when I was just getting started out with photo editing. I'd make my images look like this, and this. Yeah, I know, not my finest hour, but making sure you're constantly looking at a before and after of your edits is hopefully going to help you avoid making mistakes like I was making. All right, now our last tool on this list is Unreal, and it's recently got a really cool new update making it way quicker, way more effective, and easier to use. So let's make our way all the way down to the detail tab right here, and you will notice there is one checkbox called Denoise, and that's the tool. Denoise. This is perfect for when you have shot an image that is noisy. Maybe you used a high ISO, maybe it was really dark, or maybe you just messed up your settings. And if I zoom in on this photo here, you can see that we've got quite a lot of noise all over our shot. And when I mean noise, I mean this little grain right here. Doesn't look very nice, and I want to remove it. So all I've got to do is click on Denoise. And if you haven't used the Denoise tool yet on your image, it'll take maybe about 10 seconds and then your image will be clean of noise. But for me, I have used the Denoise tool on this image, so it is instant. And now if I zoom in here, it's a little bit close. It hasn't removed all of the noise. If I wanted everything gone, I could crank this all the way up. And as you can see, now our image looks really, really smooth, but it might be a little bit too smooth. So we could probably dial this back down to maybe about 60 to get it to a believable state. And then if we zoom in here and I turn the Denoise tool off, you can see all the noise gets added back into the shot. And then when we have the Denoise tool back on, things look way nicer. This is a non-negotiable tool if you're shooting in low light or if you shot with a high ISO. It's going to clean up your photos like crazy. I promise you, this is a no-brainer tool to use. Like you saw, all you've got to do is click the checkbox. Anyway, guys, that is going to wrap up today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it, learned a thing or two, and if you want to continue learning a thing or two about photography and photo editing, you can check this video out right here, and I'll see you over there.